Hi, welcome to Life's Checkmark. Now is the time more than ever to check in. Don't let someone else check off your life. And today I have with us Hallie Steinberg. And just to share with you before I begin, we had to change the interview from yesterday to today. And I just want to say it's okay because life happens. We're not going to go into the details or anything. But I wanted to say that we have to learn to adapt and change our schedule. Sometimes there are other priorities that come up. And this is what I want this to be about, that, sometimes life doesn't always go the way you want it to be. So I want to share that with you first. And to get started, Hallie is a certified health coach for Hallies Healthy Living. And she provides individual and group sessions, wellness workshops, and presentations focusing on the 4 pillars of health, which we'll dive into a little bit later. Hallie, I know I mentioned just a little bit about yourself. I know you gave me a whole bunch more. Would you like to share more about yourself and tell us what you've been up to?
Absolutely. But first, I do want to thank you for being flexible. And as I've learned through this COVID pandemic and having a business and being a mom of 3 girls, you have to be flexible and resilient. And thank you for gracing me with that.
Sure.
So my name is Hallie Steinberg. I am, as you heard, a mom of 3 kids. I'm a wife. I'm a dog owner. I'm an avid gardener. Some of my hobbies, I love nature. But as a certified health coach, I work with people of all ages. I'm certified to work with kids, families, adults, seniors. I'm also a special ed teacher. My background was I have a biology degree. I was pre-med going into med school, and then I decided to go into teaching. So I was a special ed teacher for a decade, took a break with that, and now I am a certified health coach, and I work with people on helping them live their healthiest lives.
Great. And so what led you to become the health coach?
Well, I have always been interested in the body, the biology, our anatomy in general. So medicine was always some health and wellness in general, but medicine really intrigued me. I decided to go into teaching because I really wanted to work with children, and I was really fascinated with language-based learning issues. I also work with some autistic children, so I really got a nice spectrum of differences in teaching. That was great. I loved it. Then I had my 3 kids, so I took a break, but I was really missing being involved in that aspect of change. I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I really believe that we can live healthier lives through simple changes. And I kind of go into that a little bit more. And I just wanted to make a difference. So whether you are a child, a senior, it doesn't matter. I really believe that we can make a difference. And I wanted to start a business so that I can inspire people and I can do speaking engagements all about health and wellness in the different aspects, those 4 pillars of health that you referred to.
Right. I guess we'll just dive into that real quick here since you brought it up. Right?
All right, there we go. Well, I love it.
So go ahead. So go ahead. If you want to start with what the 4 pillars are, and then we can dive in further with what each one does or however you want to present it.
Sure. I want to give credit where credit's due. I did not create the 4 pillars of health. It is created by Dr. Sears. He's a wonderful pediatrician, has many books about health and wellness, especially for children. He created this program of the 4 pillars of health, and I absolutely love it. So it's encompassing a more holistic approach to health and wellness. Mm-hmm. So it stands for the LEAN acronym, LEAN standing for L, lifestyle, E, exercise, A, attitude, and N, nutrition. So not only do I focus on nutrition, how to read labels, how to make the better, healthier choices for snacks, especially with picky eaters, get those fruits and vegetables in. How do you get those omegas in? All these wonderful nutrition facts. I work with the lifestyle changes, the lifestyle choices. But a lot of what I do, and one part that I absolutely love, is the attitude, the A in that LEAN acronym, which is attitude, your mindset about your health. And that's very different when you're a teenager versus when you're 60. So really getting into that health and wellness from the mindset, how you feel about your body, how you feel about your health. It's an amazing field, and I love dealing with that.
Yeah, and so do you have a hard time getting people to change as they're older?
Well, any change for anybody, no matter what age, is difficult. But as you get older, yes, you are more set in your ways, for sure. Well, what I have found is change is too jarring. If it's too extreme, or if it's restrictive, or it's just something that doesn't gel with your lifestyle, it's not sustainable. So that's why as a health coach, I educate I help people to choose their path that they want to take.
Mhm.
And I help them make those simple changes. But they have to be changes that are sustainable, that are very doable. Because if I tell someone to cut something out of their diet, let's say, that's not necessarily something that will be sustainable and not necessarily a very balanced way of living either. So it's all about balance, moderation. You know, I don't work with dieting. I don't work with restrictive mentality. I really focus on intuitive eating, mindful eating, knowing what your body needs, but also having that education of what does our body need? Why do we need omegas? Why are they important? Why do we need to eat lean proteins? What does that do? So there's a lot to it, but really with as long as it's, once again, those smaller steps, things that can be sustained, it's definitely doable. And people are more apt and more excited to try these things because there's more positive reinforcement as they go on.
Yeah. And so would you say you start with the attitude first before you move on to the other stuff?
You know what? I think no matter, every time I talk to someone, it's really all four. I'll be honest. I mean, maybe we don't talk about what exercise you're doing per se, but I would tell you attitude is number one. And I agree with that. And you're the only person that's ever actually asked me that. But in my mind, my mindset, emotional eating for, emotional reasons, or body self-esteem, all of these things encompass so much of our life, not just health and wellness, but our confidence, how we see ourselves, how we project ourselves to society, the world around us, even in business. So all of these things. And once you have a certain picture in your mind of how you are, it's hard to change that sometimes. So really, yes, that mindset, that attitude really has to be first, because if you're not willing to change, if you're not willing to try something that might make you uncomfortable, but is better for you, you can only do so much. As a coach, as you know this, you can a coach in athletics, a coach in business, a coach no matter what. We're here to help you make your decisions. We're not going to tell you what you need to do per se. We want you to make your decisions. It's very much like teaching, which is why it's such a neat profession for me, because for teaching, we're setting the stage, we're setting the foundations, especially, let's say, for reading, but we're ultimately giving them the tools to make their own decisions and really understand the material, whatever it might be. Same thing with health coaching.
Mm-hmm. And so you start with the attitude, or try to, right?
Yep.
And, you're going to track that. So do you have like a tool or something you would use to help that person track it?
It depends on, so everybody is very individualized. So no matter whom I work with, I always have to take this, my consultation is really, where are you, to hearing what that person's perspective is. And so to monitor that as we go, we have an assessment. So just like in teaching, I keep bringing teaching in, but it's kind of similar. You might teach a skill, you see the child or the whoever it is, whatever age, practice the skill, apply it in different aspects of whether life or, learning, whatever it is. And then you have some form of an assessment and evaluation. So no matter what, every session, I'm always doing some form of an assessment, but I'm doing the assessment often from their perspective. Now I can gauge it from, there's some structured things I can do, but I really need to gauge the assessment from their perspective. I want to see, well, what differences have you seen? What are you thinking about this? So it's a lot of talking and hearing what that person needs to say, and really going from there. And a lot of it, you just kind of, as a coach, you pick up on. Some of it's not always verbally said, but as you could pick up a lot of on attitude, affect, body language, a lot of other things as well. So yes, there are assessments, assessments, but definitely. I always start every session with a review of what we talked about, whether it's something about label reading we talked about, or if we talked about, some lifestyle change that they're working on, maybe adding more water, or, something about alcoholic beverages, whatever it might be. We talk about what we discussed, and then similar to teaching, then we kind of build on that. And then there's a form of an assessment, kind of a review, but also where they are at that point, and moving forward from there.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if we got cut off a little bit here, but was there is this like weekly, daily, or?
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I don't know what part you got cut off of, but
no, you're good. I
okay.
didn't know if you said that.
I depends on the person. So some people I meet with monthly, some people I work with weekly. Some people want initially a lot of support, so it could be biweekly. So it's very individual. When I do group sessions, I have them weekly, and they're in a group, and depending on the age group. So it's called prime timers, so people that are basically maturing and aging and trying to prepare for their later years. That is a whole program that I do. I have an online coaching program I use with them. And then I do for children and families a whole educational on label reading, how to look at the foods that you choose in your pantry. Well, let's talk about that. How do we read that? I teach them about the 3-6-3 rule for cereal choosing, in the supermarkets. And that even I get into how to be a smart shopper in the supermarket. So and then it's very interactive and fun. So I'll give stickers and games with the younger kids, not so much for my seniors. That's just not as enticing for them.
I'll take some stickers.
Yeah, who doesn't, But really it's based on the age. And it could be, once again, some people just want to have a one-time thing. Let's just touch base. See where I'm at, and then, set me on my way. And then that's what they want. So I believe in flexibility, as you said, in the beginning here, because everybody's different. I'm a mom of 3. My schedule is quite busy right now. So I understand if people can't have the commitment weekly or even necessarily need that. So it's very individualized, and I'm aware of that. And I feel that you need to be flexible.
Yeah. So have you found that happy medium where, somebody might become successful out of this with, say, they tracked less or more?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the goal. So if people that want to come for weight loss, I tell them upfront, this for me, I'm not focusing on dieting. I'm not focusing on having you weigh a certain thing. So I really don't focus on weight. I focus on those healthy lifestyle changes that, guess what, ultimately will help people get it to a more moderate weight. But that's not the focus. So depending on what I'm focusing on. So if I'm focusing on a very picky eater that really does not want to eat fruits and vegetables and really prefers those simple carbs versus complex carbs, hates protein, that's a whole different animal. And that often tends to be weekly because they really need a lot of the education aspect. Some people, once again, kind of have that foundation, but they just want an accountability partner, someone to talk to. Once again, that's a weekly thing, could be every other week. Could be monthly. So it really, depending on your need. And once again, as I said with the groups, that a group session is usually 6 to 10 sessions long, depending on which course I'm doing, which online coaching course I'm doing at the time. But that is weekly because we really want you to, practice some of these habits, these tools. Well, they're not quite habits yet, but we want them to be. So that's why it's weekly. So anytime you really are looking for habit change, of course, the more often, the better. But you have to be flexible. We've got a time of COVID. Hopefully things are getting more back to normal, for most people. But you have to be respectful of people's schedules and their focus. It's been a very crazy time.
Yeah, it sure has. And thankfully we're slowly coming out of that. So
yeah,
the whole COVID. Yeah, I know.
Oh boy.
Did you want to touch on any of the other 4 pillars? I mean, the other
Absolutely,
3?
Yeah. Sure. Well, let's see. Okay. So L for lifestyle, a lot of things I work on are when should you eat, in terms of, timing. We work on water is a big one. We are amazingly dehydrated as a society in general, kids in particular. We talk about, some of these, things just in general, like, mindset a little, we tie in, of course, lifestyle change with mindset, just where they are, and where they see themselves. So a lot of the goal setting, with lifestyle. And then and basically everything we're doing is some form of a lifestyle tip. So it's a little bit of a broad L, but I tend to focus a lot on timing of eating, the types of foods, which ties in with nutrition. But also, we talk about alcoholic beverages. We talk about, in terms of the dehydration, which is a big factor. And then we go to E, exercise. And that's a fun one because my belief is exercise is activity that gets your heart pumping, your cardiovascular system, revved up and working, but that's enjoyable. So working out doesn't have to be going to the gym for an hour because that's not what some people don't want that. So it can be, depending on your age, your abilities, it could be something as simple as playing with your kids on a trampoline. It might not be simple for everybody, but getting your heart rate up your body moving, your, sweating is very different for each person. So you have to really gauge that. So really talking about where they are in terms of activity, but understanding the processes of why activity is so important, not only for the mental stimulation, the cognitive advancements that you get from exercise, but the physical components of it, how important it is for in terms of allowing your body, it's called your internal pharmacy. When we work out, when we move, get our blood flowing, our heart's pumping, we actually open up something that we have, which is an internal pharmacy, which produces all these amazing medicines that we have in our own bodies. Things such as things to basically dilate our arteries, to help our blood flow, help with our blood pressure, all these amazing things just from working out. So consistently too. So we talk about that. We talk about the difference between isometrics and weights and aerobic, whatever is needed. That's a long-winded answer for exercise. Sorry.
You're fine. I do like the internal pharmacy though. I'm gonna have to run with that.
Yeah, the internal pharmacy. Absolutely. It's, you got a closed or an open pharmacy, and really exercise will open your pharmacy as long as you don't have stuff clogging it. And that's a whole other thing. And then we have the attitude, which I absolutely love working on, when I work with teenagers, I focus a lot on body image. I focus a lot on societal pressures. We talk about, this pull for especially teenagers to be dieting, to be restrictive, not just teenagers, but often that's, even these younger ages it starts. But why that's not a positive thing at all. In fact, I personally am not a fan of dieting at all. I think if you can eat intuitively and have some mindful ways of eating and living your life, it makes a huge difference. So attitude for a teenager, very different also than an attitude for a senior. So, the term is, you invest when you're a certain age for your IRA, which is your individual retirement account, right? So what I focus on at all ages is how you're going to invest in your IRHA, which is your individual retirement health account. Because really what we're doing now, no matter what age you are, is going to be preparing us and finding out what we're going to have in the future often. Mm-hmm. So, we often focus on having a long lifespan, but we got to focus also on having a long health span, because just because we have a long lifespan does not mean necessarily that we're healthy and enjoying our life. So really working on that and that attitude of, where do I want to be? How do I want to see myself when I'm hopefully 90, even 100? Who knows nowadays, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? And then one last thing about attitude, because we've been talking about that a while, but I think this is fascinating. So I love reading about biology. I'm a big researcher. I just love that. It's probably from my background with biology. And I've been reading more and more about how important your thoughts and your perspective of your own immune system has on how your immune system works. Now, I just said that in a roundabout way. So basically, if you believe in your immune system, if you feel that you're a strong immune system, that your body's healthy, that you can fight things and your body will do what it needs to do, it actually increases your immune system. So even just that positive reinforcement in your brain makes a difference in your body. So I think that's fascinating.
And I heard that before, and I could relate to that. Like, sometimes you might have an ache in your leg or something, and you just keep thinking about it, and it just stays there. Yeah, you focus on it, right? Where is it? How come it's not there again? It comes back, right?
And I have a friend, Imogen Ragone, and she's great. She does body talk, body intelligence, basically. And she always says we focus on our dis-ease and not so much on the ease. We tend to focus on what's bothering us so much more than what's feeling good. And by reframing that, it really does make a difference. And I've learned a lot of that through her, where, if I'm running, I'm noticing, my trapezius is starting to cramp up or whatever. I focus in on that. Well, let's move that and start thinking, okay, my calves are feeling really strong today. I don't know, but one example, but it really does make a difference.
Yeah. I'll have to try that.
Yeah, I know. It's not so easy to do.
All right. You're like, I give up. This is too hard.
You just got to focus on something that's not bothering you.
That's right. So nutrition is the last one.
Nutrition.
I know you touched on it just a little. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll briefly. That's a fun one. I mean, I could talk too long on that one, so I'll cut myself. I'll give it a hint. So depending on your age and what knowledge base you have, with kids in particular, The parents are involved, of course. I mentioned the 3-6-3 rule. I'll quickly, briefly tell you what that is, since I mentioned it before. It's where you look at the labels, of course, and for instance, cereal. Cereal is like a very daunting thing as a parent, because if you bring a kid to a supermarket, which cereals they're gonna want, right? Yeah. But you also want them to have a balanced, productive, good breakfast here. So the rule of thumb is 3-6-3 when you look at the label. So you want to have at least 3 grams of fiber, less than 6 grams of sugar, and at least 3 grams of protein. Not so easy to get on cereals that kids like, I'm going to tell you right now. But even if you get closer to that, you're getting to the ballpark of a better choice. And it's all about what is better choices. What are better choices? We have to, I'm not going to tell kids are not going to have cookies. Kids are going to have cookies. They're going to have candy. They're going to have a lot of stuff, right? But how do you sometimes make that better choices? You don't want to always, say no to everything, because then, I have 2 teenagers. They'll get it no matter what, through friends or whatever. But so you have to find that balance of letting them have stuff, but not letting them have too much. And remember, you are the parent, so you control what is ideally in your house. But also, all right, so if they want a cookie, well, maybe there's a better choice, So looking at it like that. So that's an example of picking healthier choices, understanding like when you go to a supermarket, shopping on the perimeter, really focusing on the outside, which is the whole foods, versus the inside, which is more processed. I do smart shopping sessions. Before COVID, we were in person, but now it's a little bit more, we can't go to the supermarket. Well, now we can, hopefully. So just really looking at the needs, what a complex carb is, why those are so important, why you should be having protein with every meal and snack. There's so much, and it's so much fun because you can really have fun with it and play games and just get it very interactive at all ages, not just for the kids, for the seniors as well, and pregnant ladies, everybody.
So that's good. Thank you. Yeah. So you touched on how kids are getting involved and learning all this.
Yeah.
How do they come out to reach out to you? Is it the parents that come out, or is it the kids that actually want to make a change?
Usually it's the parent, depending on the age. So usually even through teenagers, there's usually the parent that's seeing something that they're not happy with, or the child is expressing, I don't like how they look, or I feel tired all the time, or a parent might see a child's irritable, which is challenging because if it's a teenager, they're irritable regardless. But really, I often get it from hearing from parents. The children, like teenagers, might say, well, I don't get it. Like, I'm trying to eat healthy, but, my body's feeling lethargic. I'm not running as fast as I used to. Or, they might mention about their weight gain or whatever it might be. So then the kids might tell the parents potentially, and then the parents will once again come to me. So usually it's word of mouth. I do a lot of networking and I do a lot of speaking engagements. I do stuff with PTOs, community organizations, support groups about health and wellness. So I'm always trying to get my name out there and my expertise, because like I said, my goal is to make a difference. Mm-hmm. So really that's, I would say, and one other thing, which I haven't even put upon, but another way people get to know me is I'm a big gardener. So I do a lot with indoor aeroponics. And so because I was a teacher, not currently in the classroom, I really think learning about gardening and trying new things is really important for kids. And so what I've done with a lot of schools is I've been bringing in, one of the products I do endorse and I actually sell is an indoor aeroponic garden. So helping communities, schools, even senior centers and families bring gardening inside, especially when we have so many months of the cold, has really been a lot of fun for me. And I think it's been very beneficial. So through gardening, I've really met a lot of great people as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And yeah, I'll share that stuff later with your indoor gardening.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So you're an entrepreneur and, you could have went in different directions. Is there a real reason why you chose to be an entrepreneur doing what you do?
Because, business per se, or, finance is not necessarily my forte. I'm more science, math, even English than that. But I really love having the autonomy of being able to create something and expand it and develop it. And that's been a lot of fun for me. I never really thought I'd be having kids. I worked in the school. I always was in an organization. I didn't really think I'd be building something on my own, and I'm loving it, and I'm going to continue to do it. And I probably will be going back to school for some more schooling. And I think there's so much out there and so much more I could do that I'm excited that this is a great starting point. And I want to continue with that. So I never saw myself necessarily as having a health coaching business, but I'm very thrilled with where I am right now.
That's great. And did you experience any struggles or any beliefs you had to demystify along the way?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I say about 4.5 years ago, I got back into health and wellness, but I didn't have my health coaching business per se. And I started my health coaching a year and a month. So literally a month before COVID. So this has been such an eye-opening experience for me, because what I had planned as in-person meeting up and talking at schools, talking in people's homes, going to senior centers, all these great things in person, a month in, I no longer could do. And a lot of the things I do are games where you're face to face. They're fun things. So what it taught me, what I didn't expect, but which has been a positive, is learning about the technological advances, how I can meet people virtually, expanding my business. I didn't think it would be virtual. And within a month, I had to make it virtual or there would be no business. So really going to a whole other element that I didn't expect to do, this whole virtual aspect or platform. And then the speaking engagements, I could see myself down the road doing speaking, but I didn't think it would come so quickly. And I really enjoy that. So for me, I think it just kind of fast forwarded. It went a little quicker than I expected, which is a good thing.
Yeah, but you had to pivot, and you made a pivot.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yes. Yeah, once again, you had to be flexible and resilient, as I mentioned earlier. I had no choice, and I'm a mom of 3, so I've got to still. They weren't in school for how long? Now they're slowly coming back, but boy, that's a whole other added element.
It is. I've had 2 kids home with me for a long time, and they just went back beginning of this month.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know. So it's definitely a big difference now. Yeah. So how about we dive in, and you could share a little bit about how people can reach out to you, and I'll post up your website here. So your website is HalliesHealthyLiving.com.
Yeah.
And if you want to share what people will see on there.
Absolutely. So they'll learn more about my health coaching business. I'll talk a little bit more about those 4 pillars of health, and my certification in terms of who I work with, families, pregnant ladies, nursing moms, seniors, which we talked about, and just some of my. I have a blog up there, and just some other things that my philosophy on certain things. So you'll see that, and ways to contact me through that.
Okay, thank you. And also we have your Tower Garden.
Yes, that's a great one. Yes, I love that. So if you know of any schools in particular, I love coming in and doing a whole gardening introduction. The Tower Garden has a full curriculum, lesson plans, everything you need. So senior centers, I've expanded into Canada. So there's a lot of neat things with that as well.
That's cool. Yeah. I have to check that out. And then you have a very large Facebook group.
Oh, well, I'm trying to keep growing that because I love it. It's really my way of, giving education in fun ways of things that I'm fascinated about, hopefully everybody enjoys that as well, but it's really just a way of giving these healthy tips out. I do some recipes. I just try to have fun with things that I come across that I find that fascinating. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, you have to check that out because there is a lot of people in there and commenting and talking back and forth. So one last question for you.
Sure.
I know we talked a lot about tracking and stuff like that, but I'm a believer in goals and performing each day to try to get things done. And so I'm curious what you do to get your priorities done each day or through the week.
Yep.
If you could share that.
Absolutely. And I feel like our theme is flexibility. I have to be able to be flexible. That's the theme of our conversation.
I like it.
No, I would say I have to be organized because I have so many things happening at once. So no matter what, the night before, I go through my day. And since everything's virtual, I make sure, okay, what Zoom account, what invite do I need? Where am I going to meet up with someone? Or virtual part that I need to know. So I really kind of go through my day briefly to just make sure I have all those pieces together. And I am all about lists for me. I have to, set my goal for the week, daily goals as well. And have have the mindset that sometimes my goals aren't always going to get done because I have a lot of things going, and being okay with that. But really, once again, I'm old school. I love writing things down. I mean, it's on my phone, it's on other planning things, but I love that aspect of writing, checking things off. It's always worked for me.
Yeah. And they always said it gets out of your head and stuff.
Yeah.
And you have to, keep
And
on
I'm very
thinking
visual. So that's
okay.
Good for me.
That's great. I appreciate that. Hallie, I appreciate you coming on. It was nice to talk to you and get to know you more. And, I'll have all the information that you share with us in the notes below after this is posted.
Thank you so much for having me on. It was a lot of fun.
You're welcome. You have a great day.
You too.